Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew listening in out there or watching in if you're on YouTube. But you can pick us up anywhere where you listen to your podcast, on Spotify, on Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you go for that. We're excited today. We're in the boss's office. Actually, we had to travel all the way over to the Big Island to Mountain View, where we have with us Brandon Damitz, who is the founder of Big Island Coffee Roasters. And we're so excited to have him on because we want to know, everybody wants to know a little bit more about coffee. Brandon, welcome and aloha.
Thanks so much for having me, David. Happy to be here.
Sure. So listen, the whole idea about Kona coffee, Hawaii coffee, it's a big deal. Tourists come for because it's the only state that makes this sort of wonderful fruit and that gets everybody going in the morning. So, first, tell us a little bit about how this came about. I heard you answered a Craigslist ad to purchase an old coffee. Tell us about what's that about?
So our coffee origin story might be a little unconventional. So I'm born and raised in the Portland area, Portland, Oregon. And that's where my wife and business partner, co-founder Kelly and I met. Was in undergrad at Pacific University in Forest Grove. Okay. So this was back in 2009 or so. I started looking for either a property in Portland or a farm in the Willamette Valley somewhere. We kept our eyes out for a little while. And of course, this was right after the economic downturn. We were 28 at the time. Right. Banks didn't really feel like giving loans to people our age. So there are a lot more restrictions there.
Yeah, especially to create some sort of a sustainable farming activity.
Exactly. Yeah. They're like, sorry, what's that? Yeah, exactly. So, we just kind of kept our eyes and our ears open for other opportunities, anything that pops up. And in 2010, I was on Craigslist just doing a random search one night. I couldn't sleep. I was up in the middle of the night and I was like, I'll just peruse, see if I find any real estate. And under Portland real estate on Craigslist, there was a Hawaiian coffee farm for sale. And I thought for sure it was a scam. That was actually why I pressed it. I was like, oh, this is going to be funny. I want to see what these scamming posts look like. Yeah. And it was actually legit. I looked at it, I was like, it's a Remax agent number and a telephone number. So woke up in the morning, I showed it to Kelly and I said, what do you think about this? And she's like, for sure, let's call on that. Like, talk to the realtor right now. I was like, okay. So I called him up and
that was in 2010?
Told him out. 2010. Okay. Yeah, that was April of 2010, I think, April or May. Okay. Talked to the realtor for about 5 minutes and effectively we decided that this was something we absolutely had to check out and decide whether or not it was a good opportunity. So we flew out, I think 5 days later, spent a couple of days here on the Big Island, fell in love with it and, met the proprietor, met the previous owner, Bob, and there were no signs for us that said not to do it. We were just like, this is too good to be true. We can't pass this up. So that was in May that we visited. And then we were on the Big Island first week of September that year.
Had you ever been to Hawaii before?
Very fast. Yeah. I'd been to Kauai, been to Oahu a couple of times. Had a little bit of a relationship with Hawaii. And Kelly's mother was actually born on Oahu. So there was definitely a stronger connection there. And her brother had been living on Oahu for several years at that point as well. Okay. So yeah, Hawaii felt good. Hawaii felt good for sure. It felt right. But that was it. That's what brought us out here. It just kind of felt too good to be true and felt like a calling.
Yeah. And now, not the easiest thing to farm. We all love this coffee, but there's a lot of challenges. So you said you took 3 years to learn how to develop just the right one, because ultimately I believe it's prize winning coffee now that you guys have been able to develop. Tell us about that process of the work and the toil and the bad batches maybe that you've had along the way.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you've already mentioned, we didn't have any experience with coffee. We had a little bit from the coffee cafe setting. Both Kelly and I had worked in restaurants before, so we had some exposure to coffee, not a ton. But of course, Portland has a strong coffee culture, so we had some knowledge of things just beyond, brewing coffee and roasting. We knew you had to pick ripe red cherry, but that was about it.
Right.
So for us, it was a lot of, we got, the real quick and dirty kind of rundown from the previous owner. He's like, sure, here's how you use the equipment. Here's how you process coffee. Here's how you roast.
Goodbye. Then he said, goodbye.
Right, pretty much. So at that point, then it was just all our own personal exploration and investigation. So Kelly and I are both pretty scientifically minded, so we just started experimenting. That was really it. It was a lot of research, which was kind of tough to find good information about different processing methods, all that sort of stuff. I mean, the basics are there. Luckily, there's a book called How to Grow Coffee in Hawaii. So we started there. Okay. That's helpful to get you the basics. But as far as creating something, exceptional or unique, distinct, and really something special, that definitely took a lot more time than just, reading a book and doing X, Y, or Z. That was where just a ton of trial and a lot of error. We did more things wrong than we did things right, for sure, in the beginning. But we just kept working at it. That was it. We were just and especially coming from, an urban setting to a very rural, remote place, especially the east side of the Big Island. There isn't a whole lot to do in Hilo. Nowhere on the Big Island do you have any sense of like a city center, right? You don't have an urbane central culture at all. So for us, we were like, we've got plenty of time now. We don't go out and do things anymore. Right. So we just dug right into the exploration. Now. Right. Absolutely. Married to the coffee farm. And frankly, at that point, we were smitten to be here and just so excited by the opportunity that's really all that we saw. We were really motivated and excited by the opportunity to create something out of what we started with. And that was it. That was a driving force.
Well, now, again, so you've moved it to success and you're doing a lot of different things, but the two of you have a story before that. What drives a person? I think I remember taking a test when I was in the 7th grade that said, hey, what do you take these tests, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's for, did you tag high on farmer, or what are some of the, was when you were young, is this what you saw? What did you see yourself as young? And what was your first job that you started exploring? Like, okay, this is who I am as a worker working.
Yeah. So really good question. I'll do my best to be succinct. So feel free to cut me off if I get too rambly.
That's okay. So
great. So, frankly, I'd always dodged that question of what are you going to do with the rest of your life? It never made any sense to me. I'm not going to speak for Kelly. I'm only speaking for myself. But for me, I didn't really have.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you. It's a perfect time when your wife is not here. It's a great time to talk about, you might get in trouble, but anyway, that's another thing we have to talk about, working and creating a business with your spouse. Not everybody can do that, but go ahead, tell us.
For sure. Yeah. So my first work was actually mostly manual labor. So it's fitting for farming. I didn't expect to do any farming whatsoever. In fact, I thought I would do the exact opposite. My first job was actually doing a lot of demolition, painting, renovation for my best friend's father, who had rental properties. And so basically, me and my best friend were 13, 14 at the time. We just worked during the summer.
With the paint we'd go and
rip. Oh, absolutely. All of that. We'd go and prep a house. We'd scrape all the paint off, do all that stuff, masking, spraying, rolling, brushing, everything, all the finish work. Did a lot of renovation, ripped up a lot of carpet, all of that. Did plenty of that mostly through high school. And then in college, I actually started waiting tables, and I'd always been a fan of food. I've always liked cooking, always really liked to just kind of exercise the use of my palate and taste different things. And farming is what I fell into kind of accidentally after undergrad. So I was waiting tables and got pretty burned out doing that for a couple of years. And then, so the first year after undergrad, graduating, this is 2005, started looking for other work. And then I found on Craigslist, where I found so many things.
Right.
There was a ad for a farm apprenticeship for one of the local CSAs in Portland. And CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And it's basically a model that's used to help offset the upfront cost of labor and seed and fertilizer and materials for farmers. So what people will do, or what a farmer will do, is sell shares of their crop ahead of the season. So they would get people interested to basically spend X number of dollars for a share. You would, as a member, you would buy a share and you would get it for the season. And each farm kind of has different timelines of what that season is. But we would basically go farm, and then once a week we would have vegetable pickups. So that was a really life-changing experience for me. I loved the community engagement. I loved the work. I didn't know that I was gonna honestly respond that positively to hard manual labor, 60 to 70 hours a week, but I really enjoyed it, it turns out. And it was just something that I found extremely gratifying and very fulfilling as well. But as a farmer, especially as a farm apprentice, you don't make very much money. So I eventually had to move on, and I actually went back to waiting tables from there. So that was it. Kelly, on the other hand, she's got a family of entrepreneurs. So what she's doing now is kind of like right in line with what she's been exposed to. So yeah, it's kind of funny. We come from very different backgrounds in that respect.
But sounds like complement each other very well with what you're attempting to do.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, good partnerships sometimes hard to find, and I guess my parents worked together. They owned a bakery, and they worked together forever. And I guess they could handle each other. They knew each other's strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes that's wonderful. Sometimes parent, a dad and a son, or parent, they'll have those kind of business relationships. It's different, but. For you, where do you guys see this going? It seems like it's an exciting, you've made this quality product, and it's very unique to the Big Island, and where the Big Island coffee roaster plans.
Yeah, so for us, we just want to keep doing what we're doing and continue to grow, honestly. Business wasn't something that we sought to do, frankly. When we moved out to Hawaii, we kind of just wanted to create a lifestyle that we would enjoy. It was more of a homesteading effort. And in 2013, we won the statewide cupping competition. So we produced the best coffee in the state, which completely surprised us, as well as everyone else, because we got a lot of questions of, where's Puna? What's Puna coffee? So that was pretty fun.
They grow something, the other stuff is very popular.
Exactly.
But not the coffee. They're not well known for their coffee, but for the Pakalolo, pretty well known. Puna Gold or whatever it is. But hey, maybe you're changing what's Puna known for now? It's coffee.
That's exactly right. I think we caught everyone off guard with that. And after that point, so when we moved here, we'd actually purchased a coffee farm. But what kept us afloat was a flower business. It was a wholesale cut flower business. So that was actually how we made a living the first 3 years. We basically, we shipped flowers 4 days a week, and we practiced farming coffee and processing and roasting. And so by the time that we won the statewide cupping competition, we decided okay, we could probably let go of the flowers now and just focus on coffee. So that's what we started doing around the end of 2013. And since then, it's just been an onward trajectory of really wanting to, let me lay the groundwork here a little bit for how it turned into the business, and then where we see it going and why we wanted to go there. So when we moved to Hawaii, we're at the coffee origin. Now, coming from a very coffee geek culture in Portland, we thought, great, this is going to be like some mecca. And we showed up, and we were actually very surprised with how little there was in the way of providing kind of this full spectrum, really in-depth and intimate origin experience with coffee. We equated, being able to go to Hawaii where coffee is grown, we kind of imagined it to be maybe something like wine country in California, where you have different wineries, different vineyards, you can go visit, you can go to tasting rooms,
Sure.
and it's all executed well and everything like that. And we were, to be blunt, like sorely disappointed. We were just like, wow, like Hawaii seems to be like 10 to 15 years behind the trend of what we see on the mainland.
Right.
And so we were really just sort of like, well, like, let's see what we can do differently about that. And really the difference in approach was how we processed the coffee and how we roasted it. We had pretty different standards for a lot of the processing and the roasting that we were doing and flavors we were trying to achieve. And we kind of got a lot of weird looks, for sure, from local farmers that were like, you guys are doing what? Why are you doing that? You're using what kind of fertilizer? And why are you foliar feeding? So that was pretty fun to mess around with that. But so we're vertically integrated. So we have all the equipment to process everything from seed to roasted bagged coffee ready for sale. And because of that opportunity, we needed income, frankly. And so we opened up our mill to services for other farmers in our area, and especially east side of the Big Island.
Processing.
Exactly. And so that really gave us a window of opportunity to taste the nuances and the differences between different farmers' crops. And so, even a guy that lived a mile down the road from us, his coffee would taste differently than ours, even though, we're effectively in the same area.
Right.
So we started to really geek out on that. It was like, what's going on here? Like, the guy's got the same varietals, he kind of processes the same. So where are we getting these differences? And that really basically just inspired us to kind of keep looking at coffee in Hawaii differently that way, because we realize that that's not what's hitting the marketplace. People don't know that there are all these subtleties and differences between coffees depending on where they're grown, what varietal that's grown on site, how it's cultivated, the processing methods that are utilized, just basically all those terroir things, right? It's just the relationship between the land, the plants, and the farmer. Right. And so we got super into that and saw an opportunity to really kind of create a platform to showcase that diversity that wasn't being done in Hawaii. So that's what we started doing. In addition to producing our own coffee, once we were able to just sell that very quickly, we're like, all right, well, we need other people's coffee, because like we're selling coffee and we're out of our own. So we started sourcing from other regions, and Ka'u is right next to us. So we started buying Ka'u coffee. We started buying Hamakua coffee. And then roasting them in a way to preserve that origin designation, that distinction that makes it
then you almost have a catalog of
that's exactly it.
Yeah, regional specific with their different flavors and bodies, etc. So that's what we really got excited to do, and that we're still excited to do and to showcase. And we were still very much, I mean, for me, being a farmer, coffee farmer and otherwise, I'm very farmer centric, and something that I witnessed many, many years in a row was farmers really weren't getting prices that were fair. So we wanted to operate a little bit differently as a company that would buy from farmers. So over the years, we've just really been able to utilize our community connections and develop really good close relationships with some fantastic farmers. And that's been great. So yeah, what we love to do is work with other like-minded farmers and showcase their beautiful coffees. And it's, kind of as simple and as elegant as that. But, we want to have like a full spectrum, equitable supply chain. And that's really important to us. Yeah, that's really important to us. So we like relationships with farmers to be long-term. We're not the type of company, just because we're not the type of people to just kind of like buy up somebody's crop one year and then just leave them hanging next year. Like, it's definitely preferred for us to build a relationship and have something long-term to where we can have supply that we can rely on, and the farmer can have an outlet they can rely on. And, we work together and keep it as amicable as possible. And I think the important part for us is that operating as a business really isn't anything different than operating and functioning as a person. We always want to do it with integrity, right? So we make the business that we want to see. We make the business that we think is
I mean, for lack of a better word, that's Pono, right? That's something that we're not going to compromise our integrity or our values or ethos just because we've got to chase some dollars. It's not that at all. Like for us, it's business success is intimately linked with, personal virtue, to be quite honest. I think there's
for your success is also the success of your competitors as an industry. Coffee industry in Hawaii is also your responsibility, right? If you destroy them with very aggressive market practices, like you were alluding to, that I'm not going to undercut these guys, buy all their coffee beans, blast it out under my name, and leave all of the distinctness that is theirs off, and just I'm going to go make my money, and I'm still keep undercutting these guys. How long can you live with yourself or live on the island, by treating the others who probably been here longer than you, but just because you've got some advantage, some technological advantage, and but that's where a lot of companies come outside of Hawaii and come to try and they've got some advantages and things. But I think there's that part that's really important, especially on the Big Island, is that, and I've learned that from some folks on Kauai too, that there's this need to hui, that everybody is in agreement. Sure, everybody can get some. Hawaii provides for everybody, right? Everybody can get some if you, like you say, you create a situation that's Pono. And of course, you're going to have disagreements and things like that. But it's a very rich culture, especially on the east side where you live, that it takes a while for them to be adopted, I guess, as it were, into the community. And so
absolutely.
Any words of advice for people who are trying to come in and do business, and now you're going to take, or you're taking that Pono and that idea and that concept, looking forward, are you looking outward internationally in different things as far as representing Hawaii?
From the onset, we've always looked at our behavior, whether it's personal or business, but especially in a business context, as we're representatives of Hawaii. So we want to represent Hawaii as best as we can, and ourselves as well, because we love this place and we live here full time. We work here all the time. We're very much embedded in the community. There's no getting around that part at all. So we want to be as beneficial to the community, to Hawaii, as much as possible. And we don't want to detract from that whatsoever. So the advice that I have for anyone would be to come in with a lot of respect, observe, tread lightly, learn, and be patient. And things work differently here. That's all there is to it. And I think if you're going to come in and try to blast the doors off and have this or that mission that has to be done in a certain way, you might find that doesn't really work out. And so, it's not necessarily, I'm not trying to be too vague about this at all, but I think it's often the case that people overlook the sort of bigger picture mentality that one approaches life and business with. And I think it's really important to just be very receptive, be very open to observe first before acting a lot and making any big moves.
Because there's all these considerations that you may not have thought through that are meaningful to the people around you, but maybe you don't recognize because it's not something that's a value you've learned yet from Hawaii. You haven't been exposed to that yet. So it takes patience and time, which is something that as we bring sometimes from the mainland, lack of patience, and we want everything now. And we, of course, businesses go on an annual schedule or calendar, but the relationships don't go on an annual calendar.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell us about taming the east side over there. You got weeds?
I think what I've learned is that the east side is going to be wild, and there's no taming it. You just got to go with it.
Right.
And that's it. That's what I love about it, though, too. At the same time, it's beautiful. It's rugged and raw, but very resilient. There's there's plenty going on here, and there's a lot that one could think about trying to, I guess, change necessarily in terms of those challenges, but in some ways I just feel like that's part of the charm too. part of the charm is just it is that struggle, it is that challenge, and the fact that I think people want to maintain a particularly simplified lifestyle, and I don't have any disagreement with that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and the seasons of the land and the activity of the land, even the weeds, sort of binds you to a new sort of timetable and schedule of things. You're not the 9 to 5. It's like you're living a whole different, pace that's completely foreign to a lot of people. As you watch the weeds grow, they're part of this, and so now you make accommodation to that. And how do you work the land? You become the husband of the land, or of sorts.
Yeah, exactly. That was definitely a big shift, moving from a place with, seasons, especially a winter where you kill off your weeds and your pests.
Right.
Hawaii, no, you get the pest and the weed pressure full time, all the time. Yeah. So you got to go in there and you got to hack the jungle back away from your coffee trees if you want them to stay around.
That's right. Well, so nature's coming after you in a lot of ways. And I've heard there's this blight that's going around, or some sort of, are there some challenges associated with coffee production in Hawaii now that maybe you haven't had to face in the past?
Yeah, so the newest one is called coffee leaf rust. CLR is what it's known in the industry. It's new to Hawaii. It's in every other coffee producing country in the world. It was inevitable. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know when. But it does present a challenge for sure. But like everywhere else in the world that grows coffee, we'll be able to deal with it too. And in fact, we have, plenty of resources available to us. It presents a challenge. It does increase costs a little bit. But, it's just going to be another thing that the resiliency and intelligence of farmers, we're going to be able to get through it. That's that part I'm not worried about. Yeah.
Awesome. Now you say you're as part of the thing, and you wanted to always be as part of integrated as part of the community. How does your company and your organization, I know you participate in community activities as far as different competitions and things like that. How else do you engage the community and as Big Island coffee roasters? You're really, people know you're there.
Yeah, sure. So as far as community with Hawaii's coffee community, we've been a part of the HCA board of directors for, 4 or 5 years, something like that. So participating in that just to kind of help guide the vision of where the industry wants to go. And of course, developing, if necessary, any new bills or laws, things to just, help the community of both farmers, but also actually not both, like everyone in the supply chain, but also everyone on the retail side as well. That's something that we're really excited to see a shift since we jumped on board first with the HCA board of directors in 2014. Is just watching a shift in both kind of like demographics of the board makeup. We have younger people and more females on the board, which is great. And greater representation as well in terms of both. It used to mostly be about processors, frankly, over in Kona, and some farmers. And now it's pretty well divided up between farmers, processors, but also the retail side, coffee shops. That's important. And that was absolutely.
That should have been integrated a long time ago, but gosh, that's a smart move.
Yeah. And so obviously you can't take credit for that necessarily, but we've been on the board of directors watching this evolution, and it's great. I think it's in a fantastic place right now. So there's that angle of participation there. We also donate to the national park here, Volcano, because we're right next door to it, and also HMAR, Hawaii Marine Animal Rescue. We donate to those guys as well. So we have participation in the community with coffee, and then donations outside of that to organizations where we're in alignment with their ethos and missions.
Yeah, being just a business presence is and engaging in business, I think, is a way to participate in the community. You create wealth in the community by doing good business, and I think you guys are modeling that. But before we go though, I gotta ask some questions about you. When was the last time you were out there picking cherries? How often do you have to do that?
It's been a while, honestly, and frankly, I miss it. I definitely miss it. Yeah, if I had my choice, I think I would probably be out in the field, but I think there's more important things for us to do,
Right.
and that's been an interesting evolution for me. So let's see, the last time I was out picking cherry, I think that was 2019. Yeah,
Well,
it's been a couple of years.
That's okay. They probably want you out of the way anyway because you get in the way. These guys are so fast. They can
It's true.
just hammer down, and they're moving on picking. They know the right ones, and just by feel, and they can move along that row there pretty well.
Absolutely. Actually, you know what? That's not true. That was the last time that I picked substantially in our field, but there was another farmer partner that we worked with just this last year in 2020 in
All right,
in
you can claim that one. I'll let you claim 2022, but maybe you need to get out there one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to get out there like I think when we grew up, we all grew up, Juan Valdez was out there, holding onto the cherry and, had his
Exactly.
mule packed, from back in the deep in the woods there. But how difficult is it to get your things to market? Now you're working with the retailers and things like that. Have those shipping and this different costs, what's with the pandemic and everything like that? What's that doing to you guys?
Yeah, honestly, we've been really fortunate. The pandemic did not hit us nearly as hard as it has a lot of businesses. We've got similar complaints, supply chain, timelines taking longer than usual, production, all that stuff. By and large, we've actually been doing really well. Yeah, we've got a really strong partnership with FedEx. So our shipping and logistics goes very smoothly most of the time. Yeah, I mean, honestly, as far as all that stuff goes operationally, we're really fortunate.
Awesome.
I mean,
yeah, it's mail based and people, the truth is people are going to get their coffee,
Yep.
If they want
exactly.
it, and it's good. They must have
exactly.
They've got the main line there, and it sounds like you can go online for you, and you can set up, an account and get on there and start ordering coffee and picking through some different things. Your website there at BigIslandCoffeeRoasters.com.
Yeah, we got plenty there. Don't need to have an account to get any coffee you want.
Okay.
Accounts are great if you want to just follow along and make sure you keep track of your order history. But yeah, you can get on there, and we've got a ton of stuff available right now. Some really lovely coffees, especially we've got a 94-point Kona Peaberry. That's really delicious. I'd highly recommend that. And we might even have, I haven't checked today, we might be sold out. We had a little bit of this particular varietal from Ka'u. It's a yellow bourbon, really, really lovely coffee. Just super sweet, very smooth, very juicy.
Okay, now you are definitely a connoisseur because, bro, you are way over my head with the coffee jargon. But you know what? I think there's a lot of people that really enjoy it as much as you do, and I think they're going to find sort of a hidden connoisseur in the middle of the woods on the Big Island. So again, we're excited that you came on. We're hopeful that things continue to go well for you and Kelly.
Thanks so much, David. Yeah. Happy to be here, and appreciate taking the time.
Yeah, we'll have to create another episode where we get really down in, how long does it take? We got to roast it for, and really the mechanisms of it and all that.
Sure.
But anyway, very excited for you to come on. And again, everybody loves that coffee, and get over there at BigIslandCoffeeRoasters.com and find out what Brandon and Kelly are creating over there. A beautiful space in Hawaii, a beautiful business space, and a space sounds like filled with aloha.
Definitely so.
All right.
Yeah.
Any last words
Thanks.
before we go, Brandon? You'd like to share?
I mean, I would just want to say, I know Hawaiian coffee seems expensive, but even if it seems that way, it's not. And so if you're local, just every now and then buy some, taste what the island produces. It's fantastic. It really is. So yeah, just encourage everyone to get to know their home through coffee. If they enjoy coffee, it's worth the price. Yeah, it's
Awesome.
Great.
Well, Brandon, it was, again, a pleasure having you. And until next time, aloha.
Aloha, David. You take care.
You too.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.